Hey, how's it going all? I just want to do a quick video on gravity and sort of flat earth apologetics, defending our stance on believing and knowing now in many ways that the earth is flat. So it looks like, YouTube's coming down with more and more censorship, which makes sense that, this would start happening once enough truth starts coming out. And this is an extremely powerful truth that leaves really no stone unturned in a person's life. And so that and like 9/11 stuff and I think, I believe that, obviously God is behind this based on the name of my channel. But so to me, this will sort of get flushed out through YouTube, and Mark of the Beast will be allowed. Not so much necessarily that there's a ton of videos out about it, but people are free to comment on it, and I think people are pretty much aware that, now that anything the government forces on us, whatever it is, doesn't necessarily have to be a implantable chip, is evil. And so I think that God has woken up, many of his children, if not all at this point. And so we know to kind of look out for that. But, so he's got, it looks like God through YouTube and all that is sort of choking truth more, more broadly, and all that kind of stuff. So it looks like what I'm going to start planning on doing is going out on the streets and talking to people. And a lot of people have already been doing this for a long time, and credit to them. That's a huge encouragement to do that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of people are starting to think that that's the next thing that will really be only left to be able to do. But so when that happens, and just in general, having like little sound bites of things to talk to people about, in particular gravity. So just so we, what I use to talk about, explain gravity back to people, ball earthers, and most of them I would say have not really thought about it that deep themselves, and I didn't either before I came into this discussion. So, but gravity, just by definition, if it's holding things to a ball, forget about the spinning and moving through space for now, it would have to have a force holding people to the center of the earth, directed through a person down towards the center of the earth, and that just would have to be the case to keep things connected to this ball. And so if you imagine, I'll just use an example with myself, there would be a force going down through my entire body, atom by atom, point wise. With the center of the earth, there would be a large number of force vectors pointing down. And so I called it a vector field just to simplify the terminology. They'll probably start using terms tensor field, gravitational field, Higgs boson, quantum mechanics. They'll start rhyming off as many big words to try and get you to stop going through your example. But persevere. The name of it is absolutely irrelevant. Everybody can agree to this, and ballers will agree to this, because there's no way out of this. So there's all these forces pointing towards me, towards the center of the earth. And then there's a lot of other little forces between me and this phone, me and my TV, me and the, picture on the wall. But they're not as strong. I'm not drawn to my phone right now, or my TV, or the picture on the wall, because those forces are weak relative to this force between myself and the earth, keeping me there. And so there would be a big, stronger vector pointing down this way than all the little ones that are kind of all around me. But ultimately there is a kind of a field all around me. There's an attraction between myself and the roof. There's an attraction between me and the phone, me and the table, me and this cup holder, me and my glasses on the table. There's these little tiny little forces, but the strongest one is the one keeping me planted on this so-called ball earth. And so the thing that we know, though, is that when all these forces interact or are close to something else, they do not interfere. It's just going next to another really, really heavy object, which is experiencing a strong G-force to keep it, connected to the ground. We don't start feeling gravitational radiation or anything like that. We don't feel like our field is being encroached or altered, diminished, amplified in any way. And so that's physical, that's real, that's verifiable, just by observation and all that kind of stuff. And so we know that that in and of itself is problematic, because we don't experience gravity, in any way. And so Gravity, for it to be like a real force, it would be the thing explaining, the pressure, for example, on the bottom of my feet that's being exerted, if I was standing outside. But we know now. It's just like, the summation of all the mass of my atoms in my body, all of that dictates the amount of pressure that is placed against my feet and the ground. And so ballers will have to say that that's gravity. So again, remind them there's this vector going down that is an intrinsic property of mass, me, and it's pointing downwards. And then all the other masses that are around us, there are little vectors pointing all over the place. And so now just imagine, get a person to picture that, and then say, why is it that when you go up to anything or walk around, you don't experience anybody else's gravitational field? We don't. And the reason we don't is because it's not real. It's not a real field. Like magnetism and all these other things, like you have a magnet with another magnet with a third magnet, and you place them near each other, they start interacting, because the magnet has flux lines. It has a real field around it. And, when you put them close to each other, they're, depending on their orientation, they'll either attract or repel one another, depending on the orientation of the field lines. And so it's a real thing. You can see it, you can play with it. So we are the kind of magnet in that example, and everything that has mass apparently has gravitational flux lines emanating from it. And so the question is, why can't we see that interaction? We would need to have rules as to why those field lines are not interfering with one another. And because we know that they're not, because that's what happens in real life. And so this is how gravity would have to be magic, because it would need to know that my field is that's it. Don't anybody come into my field and change it. So I would have to have a unique, quote unquote, gravitational field that all the other gravitational fields would know not to interfere with my relationship with the Earth. And that's magic. This is the crux of the argument that we know that gravity is not real, because it does not behave like any other force, real force, in the world. It's not a real thing, and it is only just a mathematical construct. It's a conceptual thing. It's the filler, to fill in the gap of how you can have things stick to a ball. That's all it is. And then the best people can say with gravity is whatever we're observing, that's what gravity did. But all we're observing is the effects of items on a flat surface. That's it. And so, get people to really think about gravity, and that they have to really believe that there is a gravitational field, whatever field they want to call it, tensor field, gravitational field, Higgs boson, quantum mechanics, whatever words they start spewing out. And then they're going to start, probably after that, they're just going to start saying, oh, well, it's established, or, what makes you so smart? You should get a Nobel Prize. Then they'll start attacking maybe your personal character, depending on how deep they want to go into this and all that kind of stuff. And so, because they know, once somebody does that, that you're onto something. And so the same thing with the YouTube censorship. It's like, if the Earth was really a ball, it would make no difference. Just put the videos out there, and then if YouTube really wanted to prove things, they could prove it themselves. I mean, how much imagery and access to government stuff do they have? I mean, they're a government entity essentially, and so we know that we're onto something, and now that I feel God is waking up His children, we have the responsibility to at least look for others, to help them at least challenge their view, in the very least, because it's based on a lot of assumptions, a lot of hearsay, and honestly a lot of evil people that God has set up. Another thing that, just from a flat earth perspective, that we know we're on the right track is that I haven't seen any ball earther yet put up any kind of video against centralization, whether centralized banking, government, the enslavement of people, worldwide through central banking, the economy and how it's crumbling. So to me, that's actually the strongest evidence that not just that we're in the end times, but that there's coordinated deception worldwide, is actually the financial scheme that's happening worldwide through central banks, because that's obvious. That's day to day, that hits our pocketbooks, all of ours, immediately and directly. And so I know that there's a coordinated conspiracy. So the the ball earth deception just falls out of that almost for free, and so no one can argue with that. Like, I don't know everything about accounting and finance, but I'm a CPA, and you don't even have to know anything about the business world to know that this is a complete scam. Charging $250,000 for an education is absolutely preposterous. And even worse, obviously, now if you're a flat earther and you know that they're lying to us for a majority of the things that they're teaching us, or telling it to you so quickly that you won't understand it. And so we know that there's a major scam going on now. I know for sure there's a major scam going on through financial markets. And I think it's becoming very, very obvious with the amount of, anti-central banking, anti-government channels that are out there in mainstream now. And so it's like, everybody knows. Like, I was even talking to people, who maybe are not like, quote unquote truthers, but they're like, they don't buy the narrative of like what's going on, with the economy and the stock market and stuff. So pretty much everybody is kind of aware that there is a movement towards, enslavement for all people, even if they think it's slowly acting or not enough to overtake. But there's some consensus that it's happening, and so ball earthers will not go there. And so another way for us to know that we are onto something and on the right track and on truth is that they're behaving like people who are hiding something. And so when somebody is hiding something like a force that's not real, they can't talk about it. They'll start using big words. They'll start, making fun of you. They'll start appealing to authority. They'll start saying, oh, you should get a Nobel Prize, all that kind of stuff. But that's what just be prepared for that, whenever you interact with people about these topics. Because pretty much to me, once the earth is flat and people are like have to face that reality, it means God is obviously moving closer, and God has programmed people to hate him, to resist him in the very least. And so they don't want to talk about it. It's like, to me, once we know that we're on a flat surface, and I obviously know that we are, but as we all start getting more and more confidence in it, we're in the end times. There's no coming back from this when a majority of the world have a long-standing belief and have so much tied to this system, not just financially, but like just for everything, that you can't like kind of correct that, and no one would want to. Once we know that we're on a flat surface with a dome and we're not moving, we want to now talk to the person and the entity that made this. And so that's to me just a natural implication of the earth being flat, is that we are immediately somewhere in the end times. Obviously, I believe that we're at the end of the end of the end of the end times, but we're approaching some major interaction between the spirit world and us. And so I just want to put that out there just to give some sort of nuggets to talk to people, because I feel like it's going to have to be more verbal going forward. Who knows? Maybe they'll figure out a way to censor that too, by sending cancellation signals, audio signals through the air to cancel anything that says flat earth. Who knows? But we're living in those days, where God is doing this. And, we just have to be creative and, just work within the system that he is designing, because no human could design a system like this restrictive and this, big brother and all that kind of stuff. Our parents did not micromanage us like this growing up. And I had fairly strict parents, and parents don't even do this. So like, why would the government, do this kind of stuff with us? Like, why are they allowed to dictate what we're allowed to talk about on YouTube and all that kind of stuff? It's not like we're plotting some kind of overthrow of the government. We're just talking about the shape of the earth, and if it's not a ball, or if it is a ball, then who cares? We'll just figure it out in our own way. So there's something else going on, and in my opinion, obviously, God is behind anything this major at the corporate level and beyond. So, let's just be creative and continue to keep pushing, sharing our thoughts, and helping people think more clearly, really, about the shape of the earth. Okay, hope everyone's doing well. Bye.